welcome back everybody. Thank you for signing into ID Basics for You. I would like to thank everyone who has subscribed to our channel and have motivated us enough, to bring more educational videos for you. We definitely look forward to the continued support from our subscribers and people who are watching this video. For today, our topic is going to be Power Platform Administration. If you have seen some of our previous videos, you would have seen we covered up Power Platform, Power Automate, Business Intelligence, Power Apps. But today, let's see how some of the organizations, some bigger organizations, would manage the whole Power Platform ecosystem. How do they manage it? What are the typical administrative job around the Power Platform ecosystem? Okay, so without any further delays, let's get into it. All right, so anybody who wants to typically do an administrative job for Power Platform, they need to log into their account, they need to get into admin console, and then there are a variety of options, variety of features which they can play around with, right? The Power Platform admin console is a unified portal for administrators to manage the environments, right? You can have multiple environments running into your organization. You can have an environment with its own resources like Power Apps, Power BI, Power Automate solutions, or flows running into that environment, right? So each function may have its own environment. Each department may have their own environment. And then you typically need to play around with certain features, certain settings around those applications and around those environments. You are responsible as an administrator to do the upkeep of that environment and play into your boundaries, play into that environment for that specific function. Now, in a bigger organizations, typically IT, the Center of Excellence teams, they would spend time configuring, managing, and then nurturing the adoption of Microsoft Power Platform in the organization. The entire platform, as we spoke about in the previous videos also, this is entirely based on Microsoft Dataverse, which is a cloud-based data management solution and allows users to manage data and the data which is used by business applications, various functions, departments within your organization. So it helps users to manage that data specific to function and specific to that domain, department, and so on. Now, one thing important to note here is the way Microsoft has gone about Power Platform administration. The Power BI administration is not included in this console. So it's not part of this console. Power BI administrators use the Power BI admin portal, which is a separate portal, to manage the Power BI tenants, including the configuration of your policies, usage monitoring, provisioning of licenses, capacities, and organization resources. So that's going to be a separate admin portal which we are not covering up in today's video. Our focus would be on admin console, which captures features, settings, the environments specific to Power Apps, Power Automate, Power Virtual Agents, and Power Pages. All right, guys. If we look at the key capabilities within Admin Center, we'll find a couple of these options available where an administrator can utilize these capabilities to configure the Power Platform environment, right? The environment which typically is a space, a space which stores and which manages and shares your organization's business data, your applications, your virtual agents, your Microsoft flows that you have created. That's all in that environment, right? And it It serves as a container which keeps those applications, chatbots, virtual agents, flows together for a specific function, specific department, or for your organization, and then allows people with appropriate access, permissions to access that environment. A default environment that anybody gets into is the one which is created by Power Apps, and that's created for each tenant, right? And that can be shared by the users of that users in that tenant, right? So think about, you're creating those applications, Power Applications, flows, and people can share it across the users of the same environment. This this environment that's created is under a Microsoft tenant, right? It's a Microsoft Entra tenant, and its resources can only be accessed by users within that tenant. uh, Microsoft Entra. So the big question comes up: hey, what is Microsoft Entra now? It's a it's a unified multi-cloud identity and network access provider that help you protect your uh, environment, your applications within your environments, and it ensures appropriate identities, their permissions, and enforce policies, access policies, all in one place. And this is no different, right? By the way, this was earlier known as Microsoft Azure Active Directory, and it has been renamed as Microsoft Entra. Now, when I'm talking about environment, it's important to visualize how the environments are going to be, right? So think about an organization which is licensed for Microsoft Power Platform, and that organization is a tenant. And within that tenant, you can have multiple departments, functions. Each of them may have their own environments, right? So my and this can be by geography as well. So if you see, this organization has its operations in USA, it has its operations in Canada, it has its operations in Australia, and for each geography they have their own environment. So USA has its own environment, so does Canada and Australia. And within that environment, each has its own applications, flows, and data words which can be based on the license for that environment, available or not available. Besides this, in your local environment, you can also have multiple environments, right? You can have an environment for dev, you can have environment for test, you can have environment for prod as well, like you have it for any application development environment. Now, that's the way your environments can be organized. And then on the other hand, people who have access to this environment are managed by Microsoft Entra, right? That's where you define access mechanisms, permissions, securities, and your policies around each environment. Great. So we saw how it can be geographically separated, how the environments can be provisioned, how they can be given access to. One thing to note here is each environment can have a Dataverse database, right? It's not mandatory, but depending on your license engagement, you can always expect either the environment will have a Microsoft Dataverse database or it may not have it, right? But once Dataverse is there, it typically captures the data pertaining to your apps, pertaining to your chatbots. It can capture that data. All right, so this is what typically an environment is all about. Uh, and the settings options in your admin center allows you to make changes of settings, either for an environment, or there can be a very generic organization-wide settings, which can be applied, and then those get applied at a tenant level, right? So you can do your settings at both the levels, tenant level and environment level. The default environment that gets created for any tenant will have certain capacities. Microsoft provides 3 gigabytes towards database capacity for Dataverse, 3 gigabytes for file capacity, and then 1 gigabyte for all the logs that gets created during your operations. And this is default, by the way, right? You can always extend it through your settings. Everything comes at a chargeable basis from Microsoft, so when you extend, you definitely will be charged for that, and then you can see that under the billing option. Now moving on to the analytics side of it, right? This is another capability within your administration admin center, where you can go and you can do the analytics around all your environment, your applications, your APIs, your plugins. You can get all the information, all the insights about those components. So if you look at the home page for analytics, it gives you details about number of users who are active to the application, to the environment, how many are making API calls, how many executions, success rate, and then also a trend which shows how the usage has been over a period of time. So you get all those insights through the home page of analytics. You also have analytics around system jobs, the jobs running in the back end, their executions, failures, and the throughput per hour as well, right? So this is very important section, where you can really see how your overall Microsoft Power Platform has been operating. If there are any bottlenecks, any performance issues, any failures, you can always see through that system jobs option. On the plugins, when we went through the video for Microsoft Power Agents, virtual agents, we went through plugins. You create your plugins and associate it to your apps and your flows. So the admin console does have an option for anybody to go and see how the plugins are performing, right? What has been their execution rate, how many executions have happened, which are your most active plugins, and so on. So you get those details as well. Similarly, on the API call side, you can get the API call statistics. You can see how many APIs do you have, how many APIs have been called, which are the top APIs where you have seen failures, or which are the most consumed APIs as well, right? Good insights to know which objects within my environments are heavily utilized and are in demand, right? So this is where the administrator can see all the information about your APIs. From a billing side, it typically gives you all the insights about your consumption, and based on the rates, it gives you, what are the charges that are applied to each environment. And then within a bigger organization, if your environments are existing across each functions, it becomes very easy to manage, how the invoicing process needs to be done, who needs to be charged for what, because now you have physically separated or logically separated those environments across these functions, and everybody gets to know about their share of the invoice and the billing that needs to pass on to them on a monthly basis. Then there are multiple settings options, where you can go and you can enable or disable what do you really want to give back to your end users of the environments, right? Simplest example could be giving access to building Power Apps using Canvas apps, or building your Power Apps using model driven apps, or even both. So you can go to a granular level to define what you want to enable, what you want to disable under your environments within the organization. From resources standpoint, this is the section where you can either install, configure, manage all your apps, your portals, which have been created using using Power Apps and your Microsoft Flow, and then even Dynamic 365 applications. That's what you can typically manage through resources. Okay, integrations. This is a very important topic, guys. Integrations is utmost important because day in, day out, whether you build apps, whether you build flows, it needs to talk to your systems, applications, databases, and so on. So data integrated is pretty critical, and this is just for data administrators, I would say, Power Center administrators, which allows you to either use existing out of the box templates for integrations, or you can build your own custom templates for your customers and partners. So that's where you go and establish those integrations. Now, important point to note is within integrations, uh, though it serves as a blueprint, it typically helps you utilize existing entities, existing field mappings to enable the flow of data from source to your destinations, from source to your target. So you can define which entities within the database you want to play with, what fields you want to play with, and how do you want to transfer data. All that can be defined in the integration sections. It also provides you to transform the data like any ETL, which allows you to do the transformations of the data. Even out here in the data integrator, it gives you options to transform the data before importing or exporting. You can do those transformations. But before you actually create your data integrators, which is nothing but connectivity between your source and destinations, you really have to create your connections, right? Like if you remember in .NET applications, you will go and you create your ODBC connections. Similarly, out here you create a connection. You create a connection for your source, you create a connection for your target, and then you create an integration between that source and target. So it's very important to first create your connections, and then you go and you create your data integrators for any projects, and then it is available for executions like a standard job out there. Then you get down to the data gateways, right? It's not necessary that all your data resides on cloud. Your data may reside on premise into your own environments. When that happens and you want to really utilize that data into your executions of your applications, your flows, then you get into the data side of it. You create a gateway which acts as a bridge between your cloud and your on-premise data, and that's the way you establish that gateway. This can be for the administrators to use it across your Power BI, Power Automate, or even Power App services, right? So the administrators typically would ensure the management of this whole section through the Platform Admin Center. The last in the play is policies like ensuring governance of the complete environment. It helps you to easily identify, first, it helps to identify all the data policies that exist in your environment, right? Specific environment. And then you can always go and you can create your own data loss prevention policies that can act as a guardrails to help prevent users to get unethical access or unintentional access, or your data getting exposed. So you can put all those kind of data loss prevention policies into your environment, and you can even scope it out at a tenant level, right? Your DLP policies, data loss prevention policies, can be either applied at environment level, or you can go and do globally for your own tenant level as well. So those are some of the critical capabilities within your admin center, which one should be aware of, and what to use, when to use. I hope this provided you some good explanation about these capabilities and how you can go and manage your Power Platform environments. Okay, so this brings us to the end of this video. Hope you liked it. For more such videos, please subscribe to our channel, and you can continuously watch more videos which are coming up on this channel. Thank you very much for your time, guys.